When a catastrophe strikes, we must act urgently. We cannot waste precious moments casting blame on who's responsible while still trying to solve the problem at hand. However, once the emergency of the situation has subsided, there must be time given to investigation. Now that the apocalypse has been averted, it is time to uncover where this all started: the academic studies. We must sort through the clutter and debris to piece together exactly what unholy experiments the Protege and the academic were conducting. Why would we do this? Wouldn't that be dangerous? Of course. But if we forget the history that has led us to this point, we will be condemned to repeat it. Entering into the mooring brownstone, we will see items of occult nature and experiments of dubious morality. The Protege and the academic were researching and uncovering the darkest depths of our reality. To understand their descent into madness, we will start at the beginning and delve into the more unnerving experiments as we progress. Let us start with something familiar: this desk. Who would expect the day when the most mundane objects would feel so rare it would become an exotic luxury? This fine piece of craftsmanship is the crucible from which all the experiments were forged from. We must sort through the letters, notes, maps, and journal entries to piece together the mile markers on the road to damnation. Sorting through the clutter and half-finished missives are the blood-smeared calculations. I have a feeling this will be critical later.
The well-worn seat of our research, still littered with notes, diagrams, and dusty journals.
This throne of knowledge still holds many secrets. Some strange markings, even. I wonder if this will hold some relevancy in the future. This is a refreshing sight to behold. The volumes of books, tomes, and scrolls. This collection is a welcome sight, for I feared some of the more unique scriptures were lost in the burning libraries. We can find priceless pieces penned centuries ago here in near mint condition.
A rare and impressive collection of folklore, ancient wisdom, and sinister secrets.
And yet, there are still some documents that are better forgotten. Perhaps it would be best that I hold on to these more heretical ones. We wouldn't want them to fall in the wrong hands, would we? Occupy yourself with the atlas and the poetry. That damn clock is still ticking. A broken chronometer with its arm repeatedly ticking forward, yet not moving an inch. Stuck just before midnight. Just before the doom nearly took us all. I don't think we realize how close we stood to the edge of ruin.
Despite being in perfect working order, it remains damnably stuck just before 12.
Taking a moment to examine it closer, and we will find a hidden latch on the side panel. Inside are more instruments of measuring time. An oversprung pocket watch and a befuddling sundial. One a technology of the future, and the other an archaic tool of the past. Thankfully, I have been desensitized to the aroma of blood, guts, and viscera, or I would have retched the moment I scented this foul creature. This thing has no right to exist. Contorting in its iron cage, it shows no signs of intelligence. Unfortunately, it shows evidence that it was tortured. It was tortured but continues to heal and regrowing its flesh.
An early experiment. Gird yourself and don't stand too close.
If this was an early experiment, it has all the markings of it. Violent and crude. The only items of value are the pustule salve and the pulsing heart. And the only lessons to be learned from this monstrosity are what not to do. At first, I thought it was just a regular training mannequin used by the armies of the kingdom. But upon further inspection, I noticed peculiarities in the design. With mechanical contraptions holding its limbs securely to the torso, with joints specifically designed to mimic the motions of the human body. Yet one thing that could simply not be missed, with a variety of blades protruding through the entire corpus, yet lacking any damage. They were inserted with precision and care, as if it were surgery. Some of the tools used were from an autopsy kit. Judging by the cobwebs decorating it, no one has been here for a period of time.
The theory at the time was that harm could be rendered to a subject by proxy.
A vile parody of life, or a mockery of death herself. The most curious feature of the mannequin is the veil it wears. The appearance of a single eye could mean several things, but I, for one, hearken back to the symbol used by the fiery fanatics burning in the ruins of the sprawl. Such an odd carving, sculpted by talented hands. It bears a semblance to humanity, yet is still so foreign. It is neither man nor beast, nor reflects any known phenomenon except in the most obscure text. By the laws of nature, it shouldn't even be standing, and yet it defies reality. More curious is that the clay is cold to the touch.
I regret ever buying that cursed clay from which sprung this anathema.
I have only ever seen similar carvings in a faraway hamlet, and underneath a particular manor. We entered that damnable portal and were transported to a realm of death and madness. Only there could such geometry exist. Pardon me, I need a moment. Setting eyes on this contraption made me question what purpose it could hold. It has a certain allure to it, almost like a siren calling sailors to the sea. Turning the machine on plays a melody. A melody so beautiful, yet so haunting, that would raise the dead for their final macabre dance. While the dark song echoed through the dilapidated hallways, all of my most repressed nightmares manifested in front of me as vivid incarnations of terror.
We were able to replicate the dark song, albeit in a more conventional key.
Nothing short of a miracle saved me from the madness when a needle of the automated instrument snapped. The dark song. The melody of the damned. A certain jester has an in-depth knowledge of that song. It seems that the exact sound varies listener to listener, as do the effects. In one incident, in the court of a sadistic king, it caused the slaughter of all the courtiers present. Music is the universal language of mankind. It can transcend cultural and linguistic barriers. Maybe even the veil between worlds can be broken with the right tune. Belonging to the category of artifacts I cannot explain the origins of. While the base reminds us of the long-forgotten civilizations from the cold depths, the polyhedral levitating just above the base gives the appearance of something out of the cosmos. It glows with a color unlike any seen on this earth, and hums with a familiar resonance. One anomaly, which was clear to sense, the longer we stood near the relic, the more energy radiates from it, and the greater the urge to wield this power for myself. What I could do with this. What secrets could I uncover? What realities could I create?
Recovered from the sunken temple off the wind-whipped coast, it emanates an antediluvian power.
Apologies. Rather unbecoming of a man of my stature. The last time I had an episode such as that was in a farmstead. I remember harvesting crystals from a comet. I wrote it off as a hallucination, but perhaps it was a little too real. Many years ago, whilst traveling to a distant desert, I had the pleasure of meeting a fellow scholar. He sought information about forbidden knowledge and various occult locations. I pointed him towards where I suspected to find a temple of things long forgotten. If I knew where that would all lead, I would have just sent him home.
The inscription reads, "The sacrifice of hope opens the gate to ruin. Offer of yourself if you crave the void."
Ever since, I have seen this altar appear. I know it to mean only one thing: the Shambler is near. That creature that lurks in the void, in the space between worlds, waiting for someone to step into the maws of oblivion. I summoned the creature once. I would have dismissed the encounter as a fever dream, if not for the corpses. I recommend we stay our hand. We have more pressing matters to attend to. I was amazed to find something living in this tomb, hiding in the corner. It was a frail humanoid form, with elongated fingers, in a frame so malnourished no mortal man would have the strength to even move. I couldn't decide what was more fascinating: the grim mask on the ground next to it, the heart-shaped lock around its collar, or the obelisk it was chained to.
We found the pathetic creature chained to an obelisk, a half-mile beneath the old church ruins.
Clearly the creature was restrained prior to its discovery by the Protege and the academic. Given the heart-shaped locket, it may have been done out of mercy, someone unwilling to hurt the one they loved. It would be wise to set it free, either from its imprisonment or from its suffering. No one deserves to spend their final moments in chains. This experiment strikes a particular memory. When I was attending the university, I was granted the privilege to witness a procedure done in the operating theater. Whilst morbid, it was at the very least instructive. This, on the other hand, the mutilated body of a man secured tightly to a chair, with his skull cracked open, exposing the brain, held up by a mechanical arm. Judging by the congealed blood and the gallery of iron nails protruding from all of his lobes, his last moments were far from pleasant.
We reasoned that the mind must be dissected, if it is to be understood.
This vile dissection is seeking to uncover the dynamic nature of the human mind at the dull end of a rusty nail. Strangely, the body appears to lack any decomposition, and on the table nearby, we will find an anatomical map and the corrupted bile gland. I doubt these were worth the suffering. Upon this cabinet, we will find many beverages to slake our thirsts. We find strong whiskey, a good companion around any campfire or hearth. This wine is imported from the finest vineyards in the world, a luxury to be enjoyed on 2 occasions: the happiest day of your life and the last day of your life. Be careful, some of these smell off. Maybe it has turned to vinegar. Let me check.
There is something unearthly in the tannin of this unsavory vintage.
And I saw it. A half ring with 5 nails piercing through it. I saw it everywhere, in the shape of the sun and its beams, on the face of the moon, and in the iconography of everything in that hell. In the very heliocentric designs, in the waves of sound ricocheting wall to wall. Ugh. Ugh. Yeah, definitely has turned.
I've spent too long staring bluntly at this painting, attempting in vain to draw connections where I see them. I recognize the patterns, and the longer I observe, the more memories return to me. The manor, the hamlet, a far-off and forgotten land. Regardless, my attention is drawn elsewhere. The pigments used on this canvas appear to have some astral powers, if it is even paint.
You painted without rest for days, babbling incoherently about distant, half-imagined places.
I guess it's true what they say. Life imitates art. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, but did they ever mention what course of action to take when the illustration starts speaking to you? This painting, it remains untouched by man and the world itself. No one dares to come near it, for there is a wicked aura surrounding the portrait.
A handsome rendering of that devilish degenerate who so eagerly welcomed us to his table.
To think that a single mortal was capable of causing such devastation, all starting at that unsuspecting hamlet. It was no emperor, nor religious leader, but a man with an insatiable appetite for knowledge. The enigmatic man of that venerable house, opulent and imperial, who spent a lifetime of debauchery and arcane pursuits. His ambition to uncover truths no man was ever meant to know is what has led this world to ruin. I cannot help but despise him for all his crimes. And yet a part of me misses him. For he was the devil we grew to enjoy, whose voice will forever echo in the void as the man who achieved the impossible, the man who uncovered the truth of the darkest dungeon. If you're keeping count, then we are upon our final item, and arguably the most important. This doorway remains sealed for a very important reason. Locked behind both physical constraints, and judging by all the markings, papers, and occult symbols adorning the wooden hatchet, mystical ones too.
It would be unwise to open this hateful portal, if memory serves.
Unwise as it might be, we have work to be done. Opening the hateful portal will lead us down into the cellar, where we will find a stockpile of tin delicacies along the shelves of the wall, and on the floor, blood, with a weapon of murderous intent. This was the spot of the academic's final moments. A dagger through the chest, a singular strike delivered by the Protege. His once friend and trusted confidant turned into unruly taskmaster and betrayer. Forced by their ambition to complete the ritual and wear the iron crown upon their head. I suppose this would be a good moment to discuss the ritual from which many of these experiments are related to. As we know, the Protege had a cursory knowledge of the Iron Crown, a symbol seen throughout time. However, it wasn't until the academic and the Protege received a letter inviting them to a homestead in the countryside that they began to grasp an understanding of the crown. They met with a cabal of occultists assembled by the ancestor. That night, they planned for a ritual, drawing chalk lines on the floor, lighting black candles, and chanting in guttural tongues. The academic and the Protege awoke in the morning and found the group dead, their bodies portrayed along the points of the Iron Crown, and the ancestor had fled. Afterwards, the Protege became obsessed with the failed ceremony. They vowed to uncover the truth behind the Iron Crown, and the road to destruction was clear. While I won't divulge all of the secrets I have learned from the academic studies, lest some fool attempt to assume the throne themselves, there are a couple things that are clear. The ritual, from what I can gather from the experiments conducted in the recounting of the ceremony, is a combination of mathematics, anatomy, acoustics, and of course, occultism. At the core of the ritual is some foul calculus. Going off of the blood-smeared calculations, there are important underpinning formulas to our world that must be true if it is to function. The Pythagorean theorem, the quadratic formula, the golden ratio, and Euler's identity. But there is something to be said about the randomness to the world, the natural state of chaos and uncertainty. Chance. Chaos theory. That dynamic systems are highly sensitive to their initial conditions, meaning small changes can lead to vastly different outcomes. And if those initial conditions were to be altered by the one who wears the Iron Crown, imprint their vision of the world upon it, then reality itself would be unended. Things that were once considered constants in the world are no longer. The acoustics portion of the ritual relies heavily on the mathematics, specifically the geometry of the Iron Crown relative to sound frequencies. Prisms to refract light that are placed on points of the crown have been calibrated to the correct wavelengths. This explains something I've always wondered: why tuning forks were so important. At the right resonance, the veil between worlds thins, and when the veil thins, we can reach across space and time, across dimensions, and pull these entities into our world. Of course, that isn't enough. Vessels are needed for the ritual to work. Flesh to bind them to our world, anchors into our reality. Unfortunately, we don't have the bodies from either ritual to examine. But given the context clues found in the studies, it seems that precise cuts along the body factor into the invocation. Human flesh works best, but I have heard of certain individuals who found marginal success with pig flesh. However, for the Protege, only the best would do. 5 sacrifices, 1 for each of the points of the crown. While we don't know the identities of the other 4, the 5th was the academic. It is unknown if this was done with malice or if the betrayal was critical to the success of the ritual. But the Iron Crown was invoked, and the world was remade into how the Protege remembered it, focusing on the worst memories of their past to create the new world. The broken world. From a broken mind, allowed paradoxes to exist freely. The academic was both dead from the ritual and still alive, haunting and guiding the Protege. Thankfully, the intervention of the academic, pulling the Protege out of their stupor, and the heroes carrying them to the mountain, defeated the Iron Crown. Completing the confession, remembering the road to damnation the Protege had taken, and forcing them to confront their sins. The Iron Crown was defeated. But it still lurks in the void, returning to its slumber, waiting in the shadows between our good intentions. And so, our exhumation of the academic studies concludes, for now. This process of cataloging these atrocities has been an exhausting one, but anything requiring this level of effort is of equal or greater in value. I truly feel these stories needed to be told, the lessons understood. So if you take anything away from this, remember, the Iron Crown does not choose its wearer. It waits, hiding in the margins of a book, lingering in the chords of a melody, or embroidered on a coat of arms of a once venerable house. It waits, and waits, and waits, and waits, and waits for the one to seek it out. The one who is willing to sacrifice everything for their ambition. And someone always will.
A place of research and inquiry. A monument to a once prestigious career.